I mean, generative AI has just exploded, right? It feels like it happened overnight. It went from this clunky, kind of fun novelty to something that can write your code, draft legal documents, and even give you surprisingly good life advice. But how? How did it suddenly get so good at complex reasoning? What was the secret sauce that unlocked this whole new level of intelligence? Okay, let's get right into it. So, to really get this breakthrough, you first have to understand the problem they were facing. See, for the longest time, even these super powerful AI models would just fall flat on their face with questions that needed some basic step by step logic. They could predict the next word in a sentence like a champ, but they couldn't always connect the dots. All right, take a look at this classic word problem. Now, this isn't rocket science, but you can see it needs a couple of steps to solve. You can't just grab the first two numbers you see and multiply them. No, you have to understand the relationship between feet and inches before you can do the division. And that middle step, that's exactly where the AI would just get totally stuck. And this is what would happen time and time again. The AI would try to give a direct answer, right? And it would make what's called a semantic understanding error. It just sees the numbers 4 and 6 and thinks, oh, I'll just multiply those. It totally misses the crucial unit conversion. It just rushes ahead, gets it completely wrong, even though the right answer is it's right there, if it would just take a second to think it through. So how on earth did researchers fix this? Well, the solution was, honestly, it was surprisingly simple and kind of elegant. It's a trick you and I learned back in grade school. They just asked the AI to show its work. This whole technique is called chain of thought prompting. Basically, instead of just demanding the final answer, you tell the model, hey, break this down for me. Think out loud, one logical step at a time. And you know what? That one simple change had a totally revolutionary effect on its ability to solve complex problems. Okay, let's actually see this in action. So here's another problem. Mike scores 4 points, and then in the second half, he scores 25% more. The question is simple. What's his total score? Now, instead of jumping to a conclusion, watch what the AI does. It starts its chain of thought. And boom, here's that first logical step. The AI gets it. It knows 25% more means you multiply the first 4 points by 1.25, and it calculates that he scored 5 points in that second half. You see? It's thinking things through, step by step, not just guessing. And from there, well, the last step is super simple. It just takes the original 4 points, adds the 5 points it just figured out, and bam, it gets the correct total of 9. By showing its work, it doesn't make those silly mistakes. It gets the right answer. It's just a perfect example of why thinking step by step is so powerful. Okay, so here's the really crucial part. This whole chain of thought thing, it works, but it becomes an absolute superpower when you combine it with one other key factor, the size of the model. Basically, when these AI models get bigger, trained on way more data, their ability to reason like this just goes through the roof. Let's go back to that wire problem for a second. On the left, you've got a smaller model with 62 billion parameters. And when we say parameters, just think of those as like the number of connections in the AI's brain. It makes that same mistake we saw before. But look at the one on the right, a much, much larger model with 540 billion parameters. It totally nails it. It converts feet to inches, then does the division. That extra scale unlocked a way deeper understanding. Okay, here's another great example. In this grocery bill problem, the smaller model does the math for the fee just fine, but then it just completely forgets to add the $4 tip. It's a classic one-step missing error. But the bigger model? Oh yeah, it remembers everything. The base bill, the fee, the delivery, and the tip, getting the correct total. And look, this isn't just a couple of cherry-picked examples. The data is super clear. When you scale up the model from 62 billion to 540 billion parameters, it fixes a huge chunk of these errors across the board. It fixes 30% of the understanding errors, a massive 67%, that's 2/3, of those oops, I forgot a step errors, and more than half of all the other types of mistakes. When it comes to reasoning, bigger really is better. So you have to understand, this incredible leap in reasoning wasn't just some abstract thing for researchers in a lab. This is the engine that took generative AI out of the lab and put it into our hands, into our everyday lives. And in doing so, it unlocked this whole universe of new and honestly really deeply personal uses. All of a sudden, AI wasn't just for writing poems. It could be used for real brainstorming, for planning your week, for solving actual problems in pretty much every part of your life. But with this absolute explosion of new uses, you have to wonder, what are people actually doing with it? And the answer? Well, It might actually surprise you. Okay, just look at this table. These are the top predicted use cases for 2025. I mean, check this out. Generating code for pros shot up to number 5, all the way from 47 last year. That's insane. But look at the top 3. Number 1, therapy and companionship. Then organizing my life and finding purpose. This is a massive shift away from just being a productivity tool to becoming something for, well, for personal support. And this quote from a user talking about that number 1 use case, therapy, it really gets to the heart of it. In a world that can feel pretty isolating, people are finding real comfort and value in an AI that just listens, that helps them reason through their own thoughts when life gets tough. And believe me, the applications get incredibly personal. This person here is using that same logical, unemotional, step-by-step reasoning we saw with the math problems to navigate a divorce and custody battle, one of the most emotional things a person can go through. They're basically using it as a buffer, a way to manage those super difficult interactions with their ex. And the list just keeps going. I mean, people are using this new reasoning power for, well, everything. Getting relationship advice, practicing for a difficult conversation, trying to find more purpose in life, building up their confidence, even getting tips on raising their own kids. It's this amazing ability to break down these really complex, messy human problems that's turning it into a kind of partner for life's biggest challenges. So, what does all of this really mean? Where is this heading? Well, I think we're witnessing a really profound shift here. Think about it. The very same technology that got smarter by learning to show its work on a math problem is now being used to help us work through our own life problems. We're fundamentally redefining our relationship with technology. And here's the biggest takeaway, the thing to really remember. AI is evolving. It's not just a tool for productivity anymore. It's becoming something much more. Like a partner, a companion to help us navigate all the messy, complicated parts of our lives. And that, of course, leaves us with a really big, fascinating question to think about. As AI becomes our coach, our therapist, our confidant, as it steps into these incredibly human roles, what's left for us? What conversations are we going to keep for ourselves? What connections, what parts of our lives will always be uniquely and irreplaceably human?